Well, channelstv.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channelsweb you can watch our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. Besides giving you access to news and updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app have an eyewitness feature that you can use to share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. And still on the infamous abduction of the Chibok schoolgirls, 4 years on, parents of the remaining 112 who are still held captive by Boko Haram are hoping that someday their daughters will be returned home. The harrowing experience of April the 14th, 2014 is still fresh in the minds of every Nigerian, as the event brought the country into the limelight, with successive governments being criticized for their inability to rescue all the girls.
On this day 4 years ago, Nigerians woke up to the news of the abduction of the Chibok schoolgirls from their hostel in Government Girls Secondary School Chibok in Borno State. That incident opened up a new vista in the public outcry that greeted series of onslaught by Boko Haram insurgents in Nigeria's northeast. A social media campaign was launched with the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls, crisscrossing Nigeria's boundary and triggering international outrage and a demonstration in Washington and other places.
People across the globe, my husband and I are outraged and heartbroken over the kidnapping of more than 200 Nigerian girls from their school dormitory in the middle of the night. This unconscionable act was committed by a terrorist group determined to keep these girls from getting an education. Grown men attempting to snuff out the aspirations of young girls. And I want you to know that Barack has directed our government to do everything possible to support the Nigerian government's efforts to find these girls and bring them home.
This is an act of pure evil. It's united people across the planet to stand with Nigeria to help find these children and return them to their parents.
Singer Alicia Keys also led a protest to the Nigerian consulate in New York. A pressure group, the Bring Back Our Girls movement, was birthed. The group's unwavering demonstrations, sittings and sometimes clashes with security agencies had put government on its toes to push for the rescue of the girls. 276 girls were kidnapped by the insurgents on April the 14th, 2014. 57 of the girls managed to jump off the truck, leaving the number of kidnapped girls at 219. After lots of pressure, military incursion and negotiations, 117 of the girls were released, leaving 112 still in captivity.
If we know where they are, then we can organize to secure them. But if they've been divided into 5, 10, 2, all over this region of Lake Chad Basin Commission, that is Cameroon, Chad, Nigeria, and Niger, there is no way we can spontaneously and simultaneously attack all those locations and get the girls. And the important thing to us is to get them alive.
Even with the promise, the protesters, parents of the girls, and indeed all Nigerians are still hopeful of the girls' return 4 years down the line. They are all asking that big question from government: when will the remaining Chibok girls return?
Let's take a further look at this issue, and I'm now being joined live from our Abuja studios by a co-convener of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, Aisha Yusuf. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us on the News at 10. You have kept this campaign for the rescue of the Chibok girls alive for 4 years now. How would you assess your efforts so far?
Based on our effort, it's been everything really. We have some of our girls back, and that's something. 107 are back. We're a country that normally we would want to forget issues and we'll move on issues. But the Bring Back Our Girls movement, we said that we're not going to move on the issue of our Chibok girls until each and every one of them is accounted for and brought back home. And so that's what has led to the fact that we have 107. We still have 112 that are waiting to be rescued and brought back home. We have had other rescues. The Lhasa women, they were brought by the UNIMED lecturers. We had to do something to ensure that indeed they came back home. And so for that, I think that's part of the things that we have done to ensure that our humanity is not truncated, to ensure that the social contract that we have between us and the government, we work on that, we ensure that it's fulfilled, and we continue to make demands for every Nigerian. Chibok girls, they are a representation of those who were abducted before and after them, and we keep making those demands until every Nigerian, there's not a single Nigerian in captivity.
Now, this is what the federal government is saying, that they have made efforts to free the remaining 112 girls from Boko Haram captivity. Now, how much confidence do you have in this assurance? Or put it another way, what do you know about the progress that has been made in that regard?
Well, in terms of progress, we really don't know much, because at every time that we have said to the government that they should put down a feedback mechanism and be able to get to us as movement, as citizens of this country, to be able to get back to the parents, the government hasn't done that. If the government is saying that they have done all that they can, well, for one thing that is very simple, the feedback mechanism, in such a situation whereby they reach out to the parents of 112 girls that are still missing out there, the government hasn't reached out to them. The government doesn't say anything to them. And so in what way do I as a citizen, in what way do we as a movement know that the government is doing what it says that it's doing? Because what we have, the easy part that can be done, it hasn't done that. Even with the Dapchi parents, those of the Dapchi parents that lost their children, the government hasn't said anything to them. Leah Sharibu, we spoke with Leah Sharibu's mom, and she said the government hasn't reached out to them. So if you're looking at those things that are very easy for the government to do, and they're not doing it, how can we believe that when they say they're doing all they can to ensure that our girls are brought back home? We believe in the Nigerian government, and that's why we continuously make demands on the Nigerian government. A lot of people, right from day one of our advocacy, have said to us, why don't you ask the terrorists to return the girls? We said, no, we don't know the terrorists. We gave the government our mandate, and we believe in the government, and we'll continue to make demands on the government to fulfill its primary responsibility, which is the protection of lives and properties. And indeed, it must be done. 107 girls are back. We have 112 that need to be brought back home, and ensure that they go on to get the education that the terrorists try to truncate.
Your campaign has indeed been very strong. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, officers of the Nigerian police disrupted your gathering in Abuja. What do you think this portends for your campaign?
Well, for us, it makes us more resolved. We from the day one that we came out to start advocating, 30th of April 2014, we made a commitment that we would not stop on this issue. We would not stop advocating until each and every one of our Chibok girls is accounted for and is brought back home safely. So the police over time have tried to intimidate us, and we have refused to be intimidated. It's amazing that in such a case where the police have seen that we have refused to be intimidated, they are not learning. Not only yesterday, we were surprised when the police came to harass us, they also stole our property. The police are supposed to protect us and also ensure that our properties are safe. Right here we have the Nigerian police force that is supposed to be the law enforcer, turning out to be the lawbreaker by stealing our property. These are things that we bought with our own movement. Our movement is a self-funded movement. Everything we do it with our sweat from members of the movement. We have refused to collect anything from anybody, and the little that we are doing, the police is coming at us, not only to harass us, this time to steal our properties. In 2014, we saw police watching when hoodlums destroyed our properties. This time they decided to take it. But one thing that they need to know, we have gone to court. We went to the court, and the courts agreed that we have a right to protest peacefully. We have a right to make demands. This is democracy. I think the Buhari administration should understand something, that this is a democracy, and they cannot shut down voices of citizens that are demanding for justice in this country. We will continue to make our demands. And what was more worrisome and more pathetic and more sad yesterday was the fact that almost 100 Nigerian citizens were killed.
I'm afraid that we will have to drop it at that. My sincere apologies, even though we don't have confirmed reports on Channels Television about the veracity of your claims. We do sincerely thank you so much indeed for talking to us. Aisha Yusufu, a co-convener of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. Troops of Operation Lafia Dole have killed at least 7 Boko Haram insurgents fleeing from Sambisa forest after a massive military onslaught on their hideout. A statement from the Deputy Director of Public Relations of the command, Colonel Oyema Wajuku, says that troops also recovered 2 rifles, 3 magazines and 18 rounds of ammunition from the insurgents. He adds that troops also ambushed fleeing insurgents in Damboa and Mafa towns, while a member of the terrorist group, Modu Chari, was arrested while transiting along Cross Kowa in the northern region of Borno State. Modu is said to be an active member of the El Barnawi faction of the Boko Haram terrorist group. The military is, however, calling the attention of the public to be more careful, as the terrorists have resorted to the use of different types of improvised explosive devices to attack vulnerable civilians in their bid to instill fear. Now, the people of Kamwe in Michika and Madagali local government areas of Adamawa State are celebrating the 2nd Kamwe Cultural Day with a call for the federal government to help reconstruct the infrastructure destroyed by Boko Haram in their area. This year's Kamwe Cultural Day is the 2nd since the Michika and Madagali areas were overrun by Boko Haram terrorists in 2014. Sons and daughters of Michika at home and in the diaspora converged, joining their kingsmen to celebrate the defeat of Boko Haram and the subsequent return of peace to their area.
Michika is a cosmopolitan town in Adamawa State, northeast Nigeria. 4 years ago, the town was under the control of Boko Haram terrorist group, but later recaptured by the Nigerian forces. The people of Kamwe are celebrating the 2nd Cultural Day after the liberation of various towns and return of peace to many communities. In their numbers, sons and daughters are here to thank God for their return to their homes of origin, which they deserted for more than 2.5 years because of the attacks of Boko Haram.
Our people have now come back home, and the era of insurgency, by the grace of God, is over. And so for the program to come up like this is something to remind us of our problems that we encountered in the past, but now it's a reassurance that our people are now back home and we are happy.
These people are coming from different parts of Michika. They are all called Higi, but with different dialects, different dances, different way of life. But we are trying to harmonize them, try to bring everybody together.
The event gives the indigents an opportunity to showcase their rich culture. They take their turns to display the rich dancing steps of the Kamwe people of Michika. Other participants at the event call on the federal and state governments to expedite action in restoring damaged infrastructure in their communities.
Our people at the moment need really lot of road construction.
We have imbibed to do things on moral ground based on the teaching and the culture of our parents.
Since the Boko Haram occupation and subsequent liberation by the military, Michika and Madagali local government areas have remained disconnected from the national grid, and the 2 bridges linking Yola, the state capital, destroyed by the terrorists, are still begging for urgent attention.